your score at the time that that negative item hits your report, the more you are penalized, right?
Okay, it is Ashley with Keller Williams Realty in Everett, and I am super excited. As you know, I've been doing a series right now, and we're discussing tips that can help you buy either your first home or your next home like a pro. And I am very, very, very excited to have this super credit expert and educator, Audrey Strong, with me. She is the owner of Fact Checks Financial Services. And yeah, we're just going to kind of take it away. Audrey, thanks for coming with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yay! If you could first give us a rundown on how the credit score is calculated so that then people kind of know, like, you know, what we're looking at, what we need to be focusing in on.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I thought we were still asking. So ultimately, why FICO is important to understand is because you don't want to be docked in any specific area. When you think about the components, most people know that missing payments are horrible for your score, but they don't know any of the other components. They don't know what other areas they're being docked in as far as like the length of credit, the types of credit, new credit. They don't know about the overall utilization. So understanding that, you'll be able to play the game a little bit differently. I'll share my screen so you guys could see as a visual what areas you need to focus on. So right now, with all the areas you want to focus on is this. You want to focus on everything. You want to focus on your payment history, which is making sure that all payments are made on time. There's no such thing as 27 days late as it pertains to credit reporting. So even if you get that in within those 30 days, you're safe. So you want to make sure that you do that. Right here, you have amounts owed. So typically with amounts owed, it's best known as utilization. So people tell you to keep your cards under a certain amount. So typically they say 30%. I recommend getting that down to as low as possible because it's just not the credit cards you're focusing on. You're focusing on everything that you owe. So you want the lower, the better for this area. Your types of credit, you still want to focus on. So they want to see a nice mix of credit. They want to see how you're handling credit cards, retail cards, mortgages, those they want to see everything. So right here we have the length of credit. So right there, you want to make sure that you keep all your accounts open. So most times your earliest experience with credit are those student loans. A lot of times people want to get those student loans off of those reports, and I never recommend that unless very few instances. I say clean up that payment history and keep those student loans on because they don't want to see that you just opened up a credit card. It's 2020. They don't want to see new cards like 2018. They want to see a history. So again, that's the length of history. Right here, you have the new credit. This is important because, again, they don't want to see a lot of new accounts being opened very quickly. So they want to make sure that you're not in a financial bind. If they see that you just took out a mortgage, just took out a car, just took out a credit card, right? They don't know where this new income comes. Because again, your credit report doesn't show an increase of income. It just shows you what's being reported, what items you have just recently bought. So they want to make sure that you're not extending yourself too far, and especially at their expense.
Well, great. So I guess one of the questions maybe that I would have if I were, maybe I'm not new to credit, but what would be like a good credit score? Like what's the highest you can have on a credit score?
The highest you can have is an 850. So
850,
the
okay.
lowest you can have is a 350. So you want is a 300. So you want to make sure that the higher the better. So typically if you get to about 720, you're safe as far as the lowest interest rates, the best possible deals, 720 is safe. Let's get to 720. A lot of times people want to go to the 800s club. You can do it. You could do it, but you want to just make sure that you're not focusing just on the number. It's better to see the health of your report than the number on the report.
Okay, great. Awesome. Are there any tools that you would recommend for people to kind of start monitoring? Like, I'm really targeting people that are like maybe, 6 months to a year out. So they have a little bit of time to prep.
So 6 months is perfect timing. You want to make sure that, for one, you pull those reports. Every year you get a free report. So you want to go to annualcreditreport.com and you can pull those reports. You can pull all 3 at once. You can pull one at a time. However you want to do that, you want to make sure that you have access to that report. And especially because that's the information that's coming directly from the 3 bureaus. So again, that's your FICO information. You want that. There's also a form that you can print from the website. You can get that same information mailed to you. So,
well, awesome. Okay. So when people are managing their credit score, I guess maybe could you tell us a little about the process? So should they look like every month? Should they have their credit reports? Like how often should they take a peek to see if there's progress,
So you should have a monitoring service in the first place. So good services that monitor your scores. My FICO is a good one. Identity IQ is a good one. Privacy Guard is a good one. You want to make sure that you're getting those alerts as things are happening, right? So obviously, the higher your score, the more you become a risk as far as like identity theft. So you want to make sure you are getting those alerts in real time. What's another good one? Smart Credit is another good resource you can use, but you want to make sure that you have access to all 3 of those consumer reporting agencies.
All the agencies, yeah. And so those, I'm not really familiar with like my FICO. So do they alert you like your score could change? I don't know. It seems like it could change like every day. So if it goes up 1 point, they send you a message. They're like, hey, it went up 1 point or it went down 1 point.
Yeah, no. That's a really good point. So your score fluctuates, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to be concerned as far as that fluctuation, the healthy fluctuation. So sometimes when I'm using my card, it dips a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But it should be a baseline. You should never be at 720 one day and then you get down to a 500 in a week.
Oh.
So you want to make sure. So when you get those 7 points off, you want to make sure like you're not panicking, but those alerts are just, hey, take a look, make sure this is you, make sure this is normal. And again, they alert you for everything, so you will see some type of fluctuation, but you just want to make sure you don't turn those alerts off, right? In case of emergency, you want to make sure you're the first one. For example, so one time I was in my living room and I got an alert on my phone, and it was telling me that somebody was trying to get a Verizon Wireless phone, right?
You're like, what?
They asked me, hey, is this you? And I was like, hey, of course not. Like, so those alerts are important. So you want to make sure you do it.
Okay. Great.
Sorry, I guess.
Say what now?
I said better safe than sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So awesome. So those are some like really good ways to kind of track and measure and some good tools. Right. So let's see. So, I mean, for my clients, having a really excellent score can mean like tens of thousands of dollars in savings over the life of a mortgage. I mean, it could be like $60,000. No, so, when they're planning to buy a home, what actions can they take to like increase their score the most? Like, like let's say they were like at 650 and they wanted to get into that 720 range. Right. So, is that possible? Like what steps should they take?
It's absolutely possible, right? So the first thing you want to do, once you have access to those reports, you want to look it over. As when you're going through like a mortgage process and an underwriting process, they don't like to see any new disputes open. They want to see everything settled before that paperwork get on their desk, right? They don't want any mishaps. So their job is to make sure everything runs smoothly, and it's your job to make sure that things run smoothly. First thing you want to do, you want to get those reports and you want to look it over. The first section on every single report is your personal information. You want to make sure that is completely accurate all across the board. Bureau has your name listed with your first and last name. And then another bureau has your name listed, your first, middle, and last name. You want to call them out on that. You want to say, hey, you know what? Experian has me listed as this. You guys have me listed as that. So the criteria for fixing the report, it has to be accurate, complete, and verifiable, right? So if you're saying my name is this, and they're saying my name is that, where are you guys getting this information from? How'd you verify it? So fix it, right? So don't feel like any detail is too small when you're fixing that personal information. If your address is wrong, you want to send them a letter and say, hey, you know what, only use the address that I get mailed to, right? So you'll be surprised. Fixing that personal information can give you that little quick little boost. You'll get like 10 to 12 points, which is the difference between of a 6% interest rate and 11. So you don't want to miss out on any points.
Mm-hmm.
Second tip I would probably say, when you look as far as how the score is made up and it's composed, you want to manipulate as much as your revolving credit as possible. So when I say revolving credit, I mean your retail cards, your credit cards, things that does not have a set amount due. So things that if your credit card is maxed out, your points are being docked significantly as far as your utilization. So you want to bring that credit card down as much as possible. You want to get it down to probably like a 20%, probably like a 12%, right? Again, I told you earlier, most people say that a safe spot is 30%. That's not going to cut it if you want to get those quick points in. You want to bring that down as much as possible.
Well, let me ask you a question about the credit utilization. So, I mean, it seems like one obvious solution would be to like pay down those cards. Could you also, would it make sense to request increases, like, so that way you have more available credit? Or does
Absolutely.
Or is that not like really effective?
No, that is effective. So, what's the increase? A lot of times it's tricky because, well, not so much tricky, but it's a gray area. A lot of times for those increases, they do a hard pull to see if anything changed since the last time they gave you that credit. So if you're thinking as far as an inquiry could count as almost like 7 points. So of course you're going to get some points, but then you may lose some points as well. So if it's not a hard inquiry and your credit card company has verified that they'll go for it, then go for it. I absolutely believe you should go for it and ask for that increase.
Okay, cool.
That was actually a good point, and that's a resource that everyone has if they have that credit card.
So they go up. Okay. And then, was there anything else that they might be able to do just to kind of boost that score a little bit?
What did I say? So I said personal information. I said credit use, and it's most important. So you want to stay current. You want to stay current on everything that is being reported. So last minute, you don't want to lose points the last minute. Again, there's no such thing as 29 days late. So you have 29 days to make it happen, right? You do not want to be penalized and docked, because when I tell you that the points that you lose is significant for a single late payment, it wouldn't make sense, right? So you want to stay current on everything that you have open, all open accounts, you want to make sure that they stay positive. Again, another tip, a lot of times people do not want to get on the phone with their lenders, but if at a time you face hardship, you want to get them on the phone. You want to say, hey, I know it's May 3rd, right? So your payment is due on the 10th. You want to get them on the phone immediately. Hey guys, you know what? The 10th that's been working for the last 7 years is not working this year. So is there a way that I can change that due date? They'll get on the phone and they'll say absolutely, right? So don't be afraid of no, because ultimately that's the worst thing that can happen. And you want to make sure you exhaust all your options before they report. You want to make sure you give yourself a chance. That's most important, to stay current.
Okay. And so do you know, just off the top of your head, do you know what it might cost you to like have like a late payment? Boom. Like, is it like a 10-point offense? I know, because it's just a percentage of your score, right? But is it like big?
Okay, so it is just a percentage of your score, but it's a significant percentage of your score. It's 35% of your score. So that's a hit to take. So you want to make sure. And then the higher your score at the time that negative item hits your report, the more you are penalized, right? So if in that area you only you're starting at like a 500 or something, you're not going to get hit as hard, or you won't see it at that time. But when you're sitting at like right when you want to apply for a mortgage, you're looking at like you want to kind of be like a 680. You will see that, right? So you want to make sure that you don't see that. Again, you have options. Call them, get them on the phone, and say, hey, you know what? I need you guys to change this. There's no such thing as 20. I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as 29 days late. You want to make sure you get to that deadline. I mean, beat them to the punch. Don't wait. You have a lot of options. Don't wait.
Okay, great. All right, so let's see. So you mentioned getting the copies of your report. So that's kind of one of the best ways, getting on a tool to monitor your credit as you're making changes. Right. And then you thought, just to kind of recap, the top 3 things you can do are to make sure all of your personal information is consistent.
Yes.
Manipulate your revolving credit.
Absolutely.
Stay current.
Stay current. So those are the quickest. Everyone has access to those tools, right?
Yep.
So you want to make sure that you follow those tips. You will see those points added onto your score if you follow those 3. Those are very important. And then as it pertains to your personal information, right? So your personal information is tied to a lot of other information on your report. So that's essential in making sure that your dispute process goes seamlessly, is to make sure that you start there. You want to start there. It's listed first on your report for a reason.
Yep. All right. Well, perfect. Well, that was a ton of great information for people to start planning.
It's a long process, I'm aware. So you want to make sure that the things that can go as smoothly as possible, you do just that. You don't want those.
Yeah, you don't want any surprises.
You don't want any surprises.
No surprises.
The underwriter doesn't want any surprises. You don't want any surprises. The realtor doesn't want any surprises.
Yep, you want to build. I think 6 months is a great time, and it gives people plenty of time to plan. And I think that credit is a good thing to talk about, and I hope that we can do some more videos on the future.
We can go in depth about a lot of other information. I'll be game for that.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing those tips with us. Yes, thanks so much for being with us. And that's basically it. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks.
See you again soon.
Take care.
The first thing to kind of like, the first thing to help people. She's going to be like, zoom, zoom, zoom. All right, so I think that the first thing that's going to be most helpful here is to listen to the baby. She knows everything about credit.